The Rams and Matthew Stafford are quietly, some would even say professionally, reworking his contract. The Chargers make their first uncomfortable call of the offseason by not using the franchise tag. And a longtime Dodger hater gets popped for using performance-enhancing drugs again. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is March 4th, 2026. We are still in Ann Arbor, Michigan for one more day. But hey, why wallow in misery being on the road when we can talk about the glory of LA sports? And if you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a quick look at the scoreboard. Lakers 110, New Orleans 101. Luka Doncic scored 27 points. UCLA 72, 9th-ranked Nebraska 52. Smack. Told you yesterday, Pauley Pavilion is a fortress for the Bruins. But honestly, it's a double-edged sword. Because it's a fortress, they've got their 20 wins. Because it's a fortress, they're going to have 3 wins over ranked teams. And they'll get to the tourney most likely. But you're not playing the tourney at Pauley Pavilion. So they're going to most likely get bounced in the first weekend. Maybe even the first round. Meanwhile, today, Indiana's the Clippers at 7:30. Vika Zubac returns. Benedict Mathurin also will face his old team. And by the way, Darius Garland is finally playing for the Clippers as well. USC at Washington at 7:30. And I want to take a moment to talk about USC basketball. Despite the social media protestations of Gilbert Arenas, Chad Baker-Mazara is still off the team. The player and the university aren't talking, which means the scribes are going through all these past interviews with him and Eric Musselman as if to find clues. There aren't any clues. What we do know is this isn't the first time Baker-Mazara has been kicked off a team. The other time it was at San Diego State. Now, it doesn't guarantee that Baker-Mazara is the villain here, but it damn sure suggests a pattern. So with that out of the way, what do you say we get to the news? As expected, the LA Daily News is reporting the Rams are once again reworking Matthew Stafford's contract. And this should be a bit of a relief. If you recall last offseason, the Rams wanted Stafford back. And for reasons that made no sense whatsoever, other than his wife's desperate need for social media clicks, there was drama. Needless, pointless drama. And there I was last year reminding everybody that there was no way a quarterback with a history of back problems wanted to leave LA so that he could be a sitting duck behind the Jets or Raiders offensive lines. Stop it. Stafford already experienced lousy offensive line play when he was in Detroit. Why would you want to leave the game a wealthy quadriplegic? So, this time around, everybody's talking about how productive the talks are going, which is cool. He's due for about $40 million this year. So yeah, a raise makes sense. He's currently the 11th highest paid quarterback in the game, and he won the MVP. No problem. Cut him a bigger check. And by the way, if you're wondering how the Rams could pony up money to keep Stafford without losing too much cap space, there is a relatively easy route. Now, this is not a prediction, but since teams have started to cut players to clear space, there's a definite candidate. Cornerback Darius Williams was losing snaps as 2025 went on. Now in 2024, the dude was always on the field with the defense. Last year, about half the time. I'm assuming being 32 years old had a little bit to do with it. If they cut Williams, The Rams saved more than $11 million against the cap. Seems cut and dry to me. But if there is a problem with getting Stafford a new deal, it's not the money. What happens with backup Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a free agent? I've been incorrectly acting as if Garoppolo is going to stay, but let's be honest about the current market situation for quarterbacks. He did get Scum Francisco to a Super Bowl, and this is going to be a hell of a free agent market for quarterbacks because the draft class isn't that special. The draft class is more tepid than a bottle of Diet Coke that you see on the side of the road. It also puts on hold extension talks, though. This is another problem the Rams will have. You have a bunch of Rams at the tail end of their rookie contracts. Puka Nacua, Byron Young, Steve Avila, Kobe Turner. So yeah, it's a good idea to finish the issue with Stafford quickly, but it's putting on hold a bunch of other priorities as well. So if you're a Rams fan, there's plenty to talk about. And by the way, neither of the Rams or the Chargers utilized the franchise tag. Yesterday was the deadline to do so. Now that may have been a bit of a surprise for the Bolts because they could have kept rusher Odafe Oweh, albeit at a pretty penny. And you think about it, and it's kind of a judgment call. I'm not sure it's a bad idea that you have to keep Oweh at all costs. Here's why. Oweh was on the outs in Baltimore for a reason. It was only in LA where he experienced a breakout with 10.5 sacks. It could very well be that Oweh woke up, realized his career was in danger because he just got traded. That's a possibility. It could be that the Chargers coaching staff unlocked his potential. That's a possibility too. It could also be Oweh played out of his mind for the bag. And once he gets said bag, maybe he reverts back to type. Which, by the way, is what happened last offseason when the Chargers signed offensive guard Mekhi Becton. It could also be that former defensive coordinator Jesse Minter liked to line up Oweh with Khalil Mack, with Tuli Tuipulotu, all of them on the field at once. 3 pass rushers. So pick your poison on the opposing offensive line. If you double team Mack, suddenly Oweh or Tuipulotu have a clear shot at the quarterback. Right? What if you don't have Mack anymore and you don't necessarily double team Tuipulotu? Oweh's numbers theoretically go down, fewer open shots for the sack. So maybe the Bolts are like, you know what? We don't know if Oweh has the skill to get there on his own. And by the way, I was mentioning yesterday that maybe the Chargers' grand plan is to let Oweh walk and then retain Mack and draft an heir apparent edge rusher in the first round. I've been reading big boards and mock drafts, and I'm here to tell you something, guys. There are many potential edge rushing options at pick 22, which is where the Chargers currently are. Either way, keeping Mack now becomes critical. And Mack wants to play the field. So the Chargers are rolling the dice there. It is with deep regret, profound regret, that I inform you that longtime Dodger troll Jurickson Profar, formerly of the Slime Diego Padres, is once again irrelevant. Very much irrelevant, just as Will Smith told him a few years ago. It's not just taking Will Smith's word at it. Profar has been deemed irrelevant by Major League Baseball. He's going to be out for an entire year. So he won't be around to challenge Gavin Stone to a fight or to taunt Dodger fans out in left field. No, because Jurickson's Profar's love for performance-enhancing drugs outweighs his hatred of all things Dodger. Yeah, find yourself a girl who loves you as much as Profar loves syringes. It's his second suspension for this, guys. And by the way, you know what that tells me? It tells me that after he signed with Atlanta, he no longer had access to Ken Caminiti's medical team. Yes, I said it. Yes, I said it. By the way, we mentioned Gavin Stone a moment ago. Speaking of him, we mentioned yesterday that he is more or less written out of the rotation at the start of the year because he's been shut down from throwing. Medical imaging indicated that there is no structural damage to the shoulder. The company line is its inflammation. Stone said that it's not pitching that bothers his shoulder as much as it is the day after. We also have scribes that are taking different positions on who is leading in the race to become the sixth starter. The Athletic said it's Justin Robleski. The LA Daily News, on the other hand, thinks River Ryan has the inside track. Dave Roberts, by the way, said Kyle Hurt, who was another candidate, is more of a candidate for the bullpen instead. So we've got Dodger news to bring up. Spring practice opened at USC yesterday, and I want to try to stay tethered to reality. Longtime viewers know I'm a Trojans fan. CBSSports.com, for instance, thinks the Trojans are a playoff team. And I want to buy in. Boy, do I want to buy in. But it was only 2 months ago when the defense got humiliated in a bowl game. Tether me to reality. Even I will sometimes get a little, have just way too much hopium in my system, right? I will admit it. 30 freshmen, recall USC had the nation's top recruiting class. 30 freshmen took part in drills. The only real surprise from day one is that left guard Tobias Raymond took snaps at center. Not that there's automatically going to be a position change, but it is odd, considering USC is returning its entire starting offensive line. You would think that the continuity matters, right? As for the defense, it would be kind of foolish of me to describe what's going on there in glowing terms. After all, it's day one. New coordinator Gary Patterson has a well-deserved resume, but let's be frank. Day one is always about the optimisms. And we've heard the optimisms from Alex Grinch and Danton Lynn, and look what happened. So yeah, I'm going to wait and see. The NHL trade deadline comes Friday, and I suppose the only question for the Kings is, do they panic? Since they're still out of a playoff spot in Anze Kopitar's final year? They have cap space. Lots of it, actually. They also have already traded for arguably the biggest name in the trade market in Artemi Panarin, and they also fired coach Jim Hiller. There are some fans that are waving the white flag, which is very strange, suggesting, yeah, let's go for the fire sale. That'll fix everything. But I want to give you guys an idea why that's not a good idea. $50 million in cap space this summer. The only unrestricted free agent that is a must would be Adrian Kempe. Brent Clark, you want to keep him, he's a restricted free agent. So in other words, if you hold a fire sale, if you peddle off the high-scoring Kempe, you will get draft picks for players that you won't see in 2 to 3 years if you're lucky. If you re-sign Kempe, you still have tens of millions left in space, and you can still go big game hunting. Trading Kempe means you have to replace Kempe in the summer. So this is just a guess, but I don't see the Kings selling. I'm guessing, if anything, they might trade and add. It's not going to be a massive upgrade. They still have plenty of problems. I think they'll be just content adding around the fringes and trying to slide into the playoffs. But you let me know what you think of the comments thread. Talk to me about the state of the Rams and what you would do with that cap space after you sign Matthew Stafford. Or for that matter, the state of the Chargers pass rush. And if you enjoyed this update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James, and we'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.